Hey there, I'm Layne Johnson. Welcome to my studio. I am an oil painter. I love oils, but as some of you might know, I painted in acrylics for many years, and much of what I know in oils applies to acrylics too. I get lots of questions from acrylic painters asking, can I do an underpainting the way you do? You know, the imprimatura-bistre rub-out technique. The answer is yes. But you need to understand and adapt the approach to acrylics. And it's crucial to prepare your materials completely before you start. Have all your paint, brushes, water, paper towels, spray bottles, etc. ready. Because the big difference between oils and acrylics is drying time. Acrylics dry fast. That being said, I know there are mediums out there now and paint that allows a slower drying time. That sounds great. But I want to show you that, yes, you can indeed do an underpainting in plain old acrylics. Remember that the underpainting doesn't have to be perfect. Its main purpose is to create the roadmap that the rest of the painting will follow. Basically, it moves you down the road faster. I'm using an ancient tube of burnt sienna and water only acrylics. I think it's amazing what you can do with imperfect materials. And remember, I haven't painted in acrylics for over 10 years, maybe more. Anyway, let's see what happens. So as you can see, I'm basically kind of eyeballing what I want to paint. I really don't need to do this because I'm just kind of really just displaying the technique, you know, in acrylics. I'm not trying to create a perfect painting or anything like that. So I haven't gone to a lot of trouble with this drawing. In fact, I may just wing it, see what happens. Okay, this is my little mister bottle. It does a really fine mist. It's really good for that. It doesn't spit. It'll help keep the paint workable. Here's my old tube of paint. I can still squeeze it, so it must still be good, I hope. Yep. It's still coming out of the tube. I'm just using a little tub in the same way I would with oils, actually. I'm only using one color, and this particular color is burnt sienna. In oils, I use transparent earth red from Gamblin, but also, you know, burnt sienna in oils works just fine as well. Now, I'm probably going to end up losing this drawing as soon as I start painting on it, but you know, like I said, it's just a demo for an underpainting. If it was a serious painting, I would spray it with fixative, and I'd probably draw the lines heavier. Now you could draw the lines. I could have started with a script liner or something and just draw the lines with acrylics and let it dry, and then that would be really good too. But for my purposes, I'm just going to wing it, so to speak. Now again, all your materials need to be ready. Right now, I'm basically just mixing my paint and getting my mixture ready. And my paper towels are nearby. So let's go. I want to cover this quickly. With acrylics sometimes too, this canvas, you know, you're basically breaking surface tension because you've got acrylics that the gesso's acrylic, but I want to make sure it really gets on the surface well, doesn't beat up. That can happen with acrylics when you're painting thinly. And it really doesn't matter if it beads up or not. This is basically the imprimatura first layer. You could leave it just like this and let it dry and then come paint on it if you want to. But that helps to give that luminous quality that imprimatura has. I don't want to do this too long. I want to make sure I get to my rub out quickly. As you can see, my drawing's gone. It is going to be paper towel time now. I should have had a few torn off and ready to go. Just like I said to do, I didn't do it. So I'm very immediately. This is the biggest difference between oils and acrylics. With oils, you let it dry for a little bit, maybe like 20 or 30 minutes. But with acrylics, as soon as you get this down, you need to get on top of it with your paper towels. Well, because it's drying fast. Just pulling off highlights. You really don't do anything with the blue sky part of the painting. I always just leave it to the dark. In this case, it's burnt sienna. I just worry about highlights. And I know at a certain point, this is going to get not workable. It will not want to pull highlights off. It's drying very quickly. And I could use my spray bottle. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and just basically get the basic highlights pulled off of this cloud formation. There's other parts of the painting that are going to be like a reflection in water, so I'm going to pull that down there. As you can see, it's drying quickly. Oil painters have more working time. Now, even if this were dry, you can take denatured alcohol and on a paper towel or whatever and basically rub out highlights with that. It'll remove acrylics. You just don't want to remove all the gesso in the process. But if you're all in acrylics, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is if you were to do this in acrylics and then decide you want to paint on top of this in oils, and you accidentally remove part of the gesso and you get to the foundation of the canvas, that gets the canvas exposed to the acids of oils. So you want to not do that. And again, if you start this painting in acrylics like this, and it's going to get your imprimatura underpainting done really quickly, and then decide to go into oils. That's great. But once you go to oils, you stay in oils. You don't go any further. Okay, I've dabbed this with a little bit of water. As you can see, it'll rub off a big chunk of stuff, so you just have to be careful. It's not critical because this is just an underpainting. I mean, when you can work it when you start painting the painting. Or, like I said, use denature alcohol to do. I'm doing this as a demo and with a limited time frame, so I'm trying to just, whip it out. If you really did want to do it more, you could go the denatured alcohol route. Or again, if you're using open acrylics or some of those kind of products that have a slower drying time, you'll have an easier time of it possibly. But again, this is an underpainting. It's not like a finished piece of art, so it's not such a big deal. Grab a little bit more water. And even that, it's getting to where it won't rub out anymore. So the big thing is with the acrylic underpainting, with traditional acrylics, you just have to go so fast. And you can do it. I mean, you really can do it. At a certain point, you decide, well, I'm done with this part of it, the bistre part, and you decide to start painting with darker colors, your pure color. In this case, I'm only using burnt sienna. I had to go dig around and find some brushes that I could use with acrylics because most of my brushes now are geared up for oils. is my paint is kind of, as I said, it's old. And so I'm trying not to put a lot of clumpy paint on the canvas. I actually had another tube of paint ready to go on this, but I decided just to stick with my burnt sienna. It was actually a Van Dyke brown that was an open acrylic, but that's a very dark brown, and I just wanted to see what I could do with just the one thing. The challenge is to make it work with, materials that aren't working for you. I have a lot of people complain about they don't have great materials, and it's like, well, when I started, I didn't have great materials either, but it doesn't stop you from doing what you need to do. This stuff is goopy. You really can learn a lot in difficulties and trials. You really don't have to have perfect materials. Although, if you're doing any kind of detail work, you're doing limbs or anything like that, a good script liner is hard to beat. A damaged one doesn't work worth a darn. Whereas damaged other kind of brushes make good texture brushes. I have a hard time throwing out brushes. I'm trying to decide what I want to do with this tree I'm going to create. I mean, normally when I use texture brushes, they're typically rounds they're old or damaged or whatever for doing trees and such. But this flat is the same one I started the painting with, and you can get some decent textures with it. Like I said, this is just the underpainting part, so it doesn't have to be perfect. This tube of paint is really old. Yeah, I have a hard time letting go of things. I might use this someday. Well, look at here. I'm using it right now. I would guess this tube of paint is from the mid-90s. I think, yeah. Maybe older than that. If your paint's sealed up, it'll keep. Just if you don't close it all the way, you can lose it. I mean, I could really see if you were out plein air painting and you wanted to get an underpainting done quickly, knowing that you're going to paint oils. I mean, acrylics might be a really good way to go, because typically you just have to attack things. If you're painting plein air with oils, you just have to paint directly pretty much. You might thinly compose something, but you do need to, that is if you're trying to get it painted in one session, alla prima, but most of the times when I've plein air painted, I've only had the opportunity to be there in the one occasion, so I didn't have the chance to come back the next day again and again to perfect the scene. So So, like I said, on the sky before, you can see it's got texture and stuff like that. I've done that with oils. I mean, it's going to get painted over. The important thing, it's got that nice glow color that's going to come through. When the blue's there, it'll, you know, make the painting, you know, come alive, I think. Any little place that you have a little piece coming through, it's kind of a contrast. It's the opposite color from on the color wheel. That would be the orange color. So orange, reddish, any of those kind of colors are going to have a nice vibration, so to speak. Dropping in this reflection, kind of. Like I said, always stay with the, you know, most of the time, stay with a large brush as long as you can. You really can cover a lot of real estate. Just kind of softening right here. It's pretty darn getting dry there. So I think I'm going to go to a different brush. This is an old texture. This is the brush I made not too long ago, actually, for one of my courses. So I'll see what kind of texture I can get with it as far as foliage. It needs a little bit of water. You know, my goal is to lure all of you acrylic painters to oils anyway. So the thing is, I started on oils and very quickly went to acrylics because of convenience. That's probably a large reason a lot of people paint acrylics, because it's easy to clean up and doesn't smell, and there's no, you know, back then all we had were you know, petrochemical type things, or turpentine, which is has a strong odor. But I was always trying to mimic what I was painting in oils with acrylics, and I got pretty good at it. Some of my acrylic paintings were attributed as oils, so you can get pretty good with acrylics, and especially these days with open acrylics. You know, it's just, oils are just a pleasure to paint with. They're just, you can do blending and things that I don't think you can do any other way. Now, I do have a good brush with me that's for water-based type things like acrylics. I'm going to use it for a little detail. You know, this brush I made, and I always make a bunch of them because I swear sometimes you're painting with a texture brush and it's just not working for you. And you can pick up another brush that made the same setting and it works great for you. So sometimes you just have to wait it out. Okay, here's my my brush, brand new. It's a script liner. Blending up a little bit of this mixture. Make sure it's thin enough to work on the brush. But you know what? I forgot my maul stick. Hang on. I've had this maul stick a while, actually. It's a one I use for small paintings. Keeps my hand balanced. Gonna make me a trunk and limbs. Trunk and some limbs. Yeah, I like this brush. This little painting actually is, I need to maybe make it into a large painting. Um, it's got a nice little couple of focal points. Okay, let's try to do a little freehand. Gotta mix it. This paint is, ugh. Grab my ball stick again. So as an underpainting, you know, I'm putting some detail into this just because it's fun, and I wanted to try this brush out. But for your final painting, you know, some of this stuff would be painted over, and then you'd have a proper detail put in later in the painting. Yes, one of my most favorite paintings of all time that I still have is in acrylics of my grandfather. I did it when I was, I think, 17 years old, and I still like it. That's the thing about painting, you know, you can sit there and think you've done this masterpiece at the time and then come back and see it years later and think, what was I doing? You know, but there are some paintings that, you know, that you do that are like, I still like it. And that's a good thing. It's a little bit too heavy on the line. The tree line, basically. Ugh. Ugh. Finger time. Yeah. Before it dries. Smudge. Okay. Let's see a little bit more of this detail. What about another texture brush? Yeah, I don't know how much I can do with this, but I'm going to see. Okay. I'm putting in some of these harder values, basically. And texture. I need to soften that a little bit while I can. Getting these foreground dark values in place. Now, another thing you can do is grab a paper towel and get it wet. There's so much dark color down, though, I don't know how effective that will be to try to pull out something. But let's see what happens. Yeah, not much chance of pulling out anything. Again, yeah, with denatured alcohol, I think you can. How much? I just don't. I've not done it in a long time. A little bit of texture from the tree. Yeah. Try a little paint directly with the paper towel. A little bit darker value there. Well, I think that's enough of that. Just kind of stopping some of this color down while it's on the paper towel. Now, I mean, this is looking pretty good just for an underpainting. I mean, it's like I said, you know, what the purpose of the underpainting is to get you down the road. You know, you've realized some of these the composition issues. You've gotten it ready to go further with it. Not to say you can't change things on it, but this gets you in the ballpark. This paint, I don't think so. Okay, there you go. Underpainting and acrylics. You definitely can do it, and this turned out pretty good. I think I'll probably have to finish this painting. You could continue the painting further with a darker value if you want to, but I don't think it's necessary. All done in under 30 minutes. So there you go. Thanks for joining me in my studio. If you enjoyed this video, you'll also probably enjoy watching the videos I've linked on the screen. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. If you're ready for more in-depth lessons, consider enrolling on one of my online courses where I teach classical painting techniques for landscape painters. You can find all my classes at laynejohnson.com or click on the link in the description below.